An evil spirit wants to enter the real world and wreak so much havoc it'll bring about a dark age, and the dead will rise. In Indigo, an Indonesian horror movie currently on Netflix from writer director Rocky Soraya, who did The Doll and other projects. Check out his IMDb page for the full list of his work. This is also written by one other person that has an Indonesian name I don't want to attempt to pronounce, but you can check out his IMDb page for the full list of his work. And the entire cast is Indonesian, so yeah, I'm not going to try to pronounce the names. I apologize. I need to brush up on my Indonesian pronunciations. That's hard to say. I will say, however, the cast certainly does their best in this story of demonic possession, where there might be a certain reason why this evil spirit is trying to possess a person and enter the real world so Rob Thomas can stop being hassled by it. Yeah, I'm going to work that reference in as much as I can. And so we're in a couple of respective cities in Indonesia. Obviously, in an Indonesian horror movie, it would have to be. And basically the plot, such as it is, there's a girl named Zora, not the masked superstar, not the masked swordsman, not Zora. This doesn't look like sword play at all, does it? This looks really dirty. I'm gonna stop doing this eventually. Anyway, she ends up coming in contact with the spirit, and basically her parents say, take her powers away. And they ask a psychic named Sakar, who is played by Sarah W. I can say that much without screwing up her name. I will say she is very lovely. Good goddamn Christ, she is lovely. Has seemingly just aged or hasn't aged in the last 20 or so years, because I thought she was way younger. She's a little bit older than me, and I am blown away by that. That being said, she binds Zora's powers, so this ghost can't get to her. But then, sometime later, she has a younger sister, and this younger sister is besieged by the spirit, and she must band together with people, including a guy named Aksa, who is working for a corporation that basically her father has something to do with. This corporation is doing some shady shit. We find that out through pieces of dialogue and little blips on the news. And let's just say Zora doesn't want anything to do with the corporation. We find out why a little bit later, and then we get spoopy stuff where I will say the makeup effects on the demon, it is spelled Widuri, Warduri, I think is how it's said. Different pronunciations and different dialects. I apologize if I dishonored that at all. And the makeup effects actually on these particular spirits and the other spirits that pop up are pretty goddamn good. The jump scare noises are a little bit tired and then get very tired, and I think it actually gets almost a little bit lazy. But there's also some good camera work. In fact, there's some tremendous camera work in the opening sequence and pans throughout the house, and actually some pretty good stuff. There's some talent behind the camera and in front of the camera. And even if a lot of this is familiar, and I'm sure this plays out better in Indonesia than it would in the US, I can appreciate what they tried to do. And even though the movie is probably about 20 minutes longer than it needed to be, and I think had a little too much that they tried to throw in there near the end, I think they could have easily cut out a few things earlier on and made it a tight hour and 40 or so minutes, maybe an hour and 35 minutes. Nevertheless, decent enough character building, even if some of it does feel a little bit lengthened. It is on Netflix currently if you want to check it out. Decent enough Indonesian horror. Pretty good makeup effects, pretty decent acting, even if it goes a little bit long. Getting into spoilers right now. 3, 2, 1. Spoilers. So, we start off in 2006. And, again, Sarah W., my God, she's gorgeous. Fucking Christ, she's gorgeous. She figures out that Zora has a sixth sense. She's an Indigo. And then has a sister. Not the Indigo Girls, but the Indigo Sisters. It's like the Warner Bros. And the Warner Sister. And this demon claws at people, claws at its victims, trying to get in. That seems counterproductive. You would just kind of want to go through maybe the throat and go down like that. But whatever, claw through. What the fuck do I know about demonic possession? Nothing that you need to know about. And the parents say bind her power. So they do. And then we go to Jakarta. That's in 2023. And this movie's marketed as coming out in Indonesia in late 2023. But it didn't get released onto the, the worldwide information superhighway, as the kids call it, or called it back in like 95, 96, until just recently. So that's why this is going to count as movies I've watched in 2024. That's how these things work. Zora's rich. She has an art gallery. That gets factored in a little bit later. This guy, Aksa, he's fine. He's fine enough, the character. And Ninda is the younger sister, who is bothered by ghosts. And then things go on. Things keep happening. She keeps hearing voices in her head. We smash cut to a year ago when Ninda had a dream, and that caused some car accident, some horrible car accident. On one of the foggiest days in recorded history, Silent Hill thought that was too much fog. And then there's a psychic person that's going to enter the fray, and it's Sakar. And then there's this book on Indigos, this novel about, all these ghosts and whatnot. It's a remind Zora of who she is. Eventually, she has to get her powers unlocked. And she has to basically save her sister. When they first show the ghost, I was like, okay, that's not, I don't know if it's necessarily scary, but it's at least eerie, and the makeup effects are pretty good. They look good close up, decent enough CGI. Good job on the makeup effects to whoever did them. I'm pretty certain it said in the cast, and I'm pretty certain I'd probably screw up the names, but good technical work there. And it turns out that this spirit has a reason why it's targeting this particular family. There's this, rosary bead necklace thing that does no good. I don't know why they have keys to lock their doors in their house unless they're worried about people breaking in and doing something. I don't necessarily get it. Whatever. It's not for me to judge. Zora let's now basically bring her powers back. We find out more about Sakara, how her husband passed away. That's why her son, I believe, Dafa, doesn't talk much. She has a daughter, Elma. Sorry, couldn't help it. And Sakara was seen as weird. She was cast out, so she wants to use her abilities to help people. And then the ghost basically gets a hold of Ninda, and the Santa Maria. And then it actually ends up killing Sakara's daughter by throwing her on a spiked fence. That was a pretty good scene there. That was pretty good, right? Good gore effects. And then we smash cut back to a deal that that Zora's grandparents made, and that would be, by extension, Ninda's grandparents. They made a deal by capturing a pregnant lady and sacrificing her. And she was never able to carry her child to term, and they basically buried the remains here for wealth and power. They made a deal with the devil for wealth and power. Those always turn out well. And Aksa also references that his dad was seen by many people that took his own life. That's the editing I'm going to do there to avoid getting stricken, or people wonder on YouTube, is everything okay? No, everything's fine. It's about a character in the movie taking his own life, and it turns out actually he saw this ritual happen, or saw the grandfather of Zora doing this stuff at this altar that's in the woods that somehow is right near a food truck that the guy could just walk from it. Not a very good way to hide that shit, but nevertheless. So it turns out actually he was killed. And then the idea is they need to get the bones, the remains of this Waduri, and burn them. Basically just burn them, put all this stuff before the full moon happens, or full moon does something. It kind of gets a little messy after that. Aksa decides to go do that. He has a crew already ready to look for the remains. And then he basically texts us saying he quits the company, and then he gets hit by a truck, conveniently. A truck that was just happened to be sent out by the corporation to smash him and kill him, so this secret couldn't be revealed. Nobody wonder about the damage to the truck? Whatever, doesn't matter. You can pay the mechanic off, I guess, because Indonesian horror, I guess. So, I did note they could have cut 20 minutes off again, because Zora gets possessed, and she has to fight through all this stuff. There's actually a pretty good scene where it's the possessed part, and Zora having dialogue between between the reflection and the real world. That was kind of nice. And then Sakura gets chokeslammed through a table. That was good. That was a good wrestling move right there. At least I saw it as a chokeslam. And then later goes through a glass door. How much glass needs to be broken in the last 20 minutes, I wonder? And then the possessed Zora is doing this and die. And then the remains are found that Ninda somehow found. She managed to get to this accident and grab the remains after finding out from Aksa, who somehow is still alive despite getting hit by a semi or a delivery truck. She gets the remains. None of the cops or paramedics or anybody or the bystanders trying to say, hey, what's that little girl doing down there? Whatever, it matters. It's fine. Let's just let her contaminate the crime scene. She gets back to the house, and then hands them to Sakura, and Sakura's like, gets all this stuff, all these spices and herbs and oregano, and too much oregano, too little time. Ha 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 ha. And then throws them in there, the bones in there, saying, go to hell. But the full moon had already happened, and I guess that means that it was only contained but not destroyed. Kinda. Why? Because months later, Aksa and Zora are expecting a child, and then the child is actually evil because Ninda's still having bad dreams. You can never get rid of this stuff, so are we going to get Indigo too? Electric Dark Age Boogaloo? Possibly. It sounds like I'm down on the movie, and I'm down on a few aspects. I'm not going to say I entirely was gripped by all of it, but it has enough positives. Gets a B. Why not? It's acceptable. Decent enough. I may have to check out more of what the writer-director did, and check out other stuff that the people did. You know other horror movies that they were in? Let me know in the comments. So yeah, B. Like, share, subscribe. Twitter handle in the description. I'm John Replin. I'll see you soon.